Hi everybody. Sorry that I couldn't be there today, but hopefully this screencast still helps you understand for the most part what we're talking about with verb, mood, and voice. Any questions that you have, you can ask each other, you can look online, you can ask the substitute, or you can just do your best and then talk to me when I'm back tomorrow. Anyway, the two topics that are being covered in this presentation are verb, mood, and voice, and you guys have access to this on Google Classroom as well. When we're talking about verb mood, this is the attitude of the speaker or writer using the verb, and there are four different terms that we use. So we have these four here: indicative, imperative, subjunctive, and interrogative. In the next slides we'll go through what each of those mean. So indicative, you can think of somebody indicating what they think or indicating what is true about something. So this is kind of like when you're just making statements, you're just giving facts. So she won, that's just something that happened. Or opinions even, you should win is still just somebody making a statement. So the indicative mood is where you're making a statement. You're indicating either what you think or what you know to be true. The imperative mood, over on this side, you'll see it says command mood. And the word imperative itself means that something is really important. So if you're giving somebody commands, you must believe that it's important that they do this. So one example of imperative mood would just be giving a command, enter the contest. You're telling somebody what to do. Or you might be making a request, but really this is still just a polite command. Please enter the contest. Just because the word please is there, it somehow is referred to as a request, but really you're still just giving a command. So imperative mood means that you're giving a command to somebody else. So far we've had indicative, where you're making a statement, and imperative, where you're giving a command. The third mood would be subjunctive. It's a little bit trickier. So you can have some situations where you're talking about something that's contrary to fact. So it is different from how things really are. So you'll see people talking about if something is going on. So the word if should be one really big clue to you that something would be in the subjunctive. So if I were a millionaire, I would have a nice house. It's something different from reality. And it could just deal with wishes as well. So this is pretty similar to the top one. But instead of somebody saying, if I were a millionaire, they could say, I wish I was a millionaire, or I wish I were a millionaire. I wish I could fly. So the word wish and the word if are the two words that you want to keep in mind when you're looking at if something is in the subjunctive. Interrogative is the last one. This is probably the easiest one for people to remember because these are questions. So really, if it's punctuated, you should know if you see a question mark that it's the interrogative mood. But you can think of somebody interrogating somebody else. That's where this word comes from, interrogative. If you're interrogating somebody for a crime, you would be asking them a lot of questions. So examples of sentences in the interrogative mood would be, what time does the movie start? And can I get popcorn, soda, and candy? Okay, and that's it. Those are four different moods that we might talk about. So different verb moods. So we're looking at this one. We have take off that atrocious hat. Here you're giving somebody a command. Command, if we jump back here, says that is in the imperative mood. Number two, I wish I were in Wonderland. Hopefully you can remember the word wish was significant. The word wish tells you that it is in the subjunctive mood. Do you know why Mad Hatter Day falls on October 6th? You're asking a question. It's like you're interrogating somebody else, so it's the interrogative mood. And then the man wearing the purple top hat won the contest is just a statement of what happened, so that is the indicative mood. It's just indicating what happened. And if we look at the answers, those match with what I just said. There are a few more. You can practice with these on your own or go through them with me. So the first one says, if I would have submitted a picture, I could be in the contest. Now we see again the word if. If should jump out to you and tell you that it is in the subjunctive mood. Number two says, submit final hat designs for approval by Saturday. This is a command of what people need to do. So commands are in the imperative mood. It's imperative that you finish them. Oops. The Hatter contest is held every year in October. This is just a statement of when it occurs. So you're just indicating facts. So it's indicative. And the last one, did I win the Hatter contest, is a question. So it is in the interrogative mood. It's like you're interrogating somebody. So you can see that here. It's a question word, or a question that you're asking. You can see again that the answers I just gave match the ones on the slide. And that's everything with verb mood. So now we're on to verb voice. As you can see here, the verb voice tells the reader whether the subject performs or receives the action. So the two things that we're going to talk about are active voice and passive voice. A lot of times when people submit things to Turnitin.com, it'll say that you are using the passive voice. Generally, it's recommended that you write using the active voice as much as possible. But there are reasons that you would want to use the passive voice as well. So the real difference is whether or not the subject is performing the action or whether somebody is receiving an action. So here we have Jennifer creates a hat. It's in the active voice. Jennifer is actively creating a hat. So they are doing an action. So it's like Jennifer is actively involved. But here the hat is created by Jennifer. Now the hat is what's first. We have this phrase is created. It sounds like the hat is receiving this action of being created. The hat isn't actively creating anything. It's not involved in doing anything. So the hat is created by Jennifer would be an example of passive voice. Usually people will recommend using active voice, especially with creative writing. It's usually a little bit clearer, easier to read, has a better sentence fluency. But there are reasons for using the passive voice that make a lot of sense. For example, if you don't know who is doing something, you might need to use the passive voice. So if you say the window is broken, but you don't know who broke it, it makes sense to say the window was broken. Because somebody broke the window, but you may just want to emphasize the fact that the window was broken. You might not care about who did it. And with scientific writing, it often makes sense because it is weird if you're writing a lab report and you keep saying the researchers did this and the researchers did this. It might make more sense to say like 20 milliliters of this chemical was poured into the flask. Okay, it makes more sense to do that instead of constantly talking about who is doing different actions. So if we practice a little bit here, we have the Mad Hatter celebration was ruined. The Mad Hatter celebration is not doing the ruining. It's something that was done to it. So that's going to be the passive voice. Number 2, Mad Hatter Day allows people to celebrate absolute silliness. So the day allows people to do something. So it is actually actively doing something now. It allows people to celebrate. So it is doing the action. Alice goes to Mad Hatter Day every year. Alice is doing the action of going. So it's active. And number 4, a fun time was had by everyone that attended Mad Hatter Day. The fun time was had, meaning that something was done to it. So here again we have passive voice. Okay. And you'll notice that pattern of like was done, like was ruined, was had. These are things that were done to something else. That's usually the pattern that you're going to see when you run to the passive voice. So we could also practice rewriting these sentences. We were shown by the local Hatter previous first place entries. So since it says we were shown, that is something that was done again. So we'd need to rewrite it with the subject coming first, or the person doing the action coming first. So we could instead say the local Hatter showed us previous first place entries. Number 2, the Hatter contest was judged by George. Could just be again switched around so that George comes first, and you could say George judged the Hatter contest. And you can see very similar responses there. Here are 2 more examples. So the first one says, I wondered why I hadn't been invited to the Mad Hatter dinner. Here it's I hadn't been invited. So we want to talk about who did the inviting, which would probably be the Mad Hatter, although it's not specifically mentioned in there. But you could change it to I wondered why the Mad Hatter didn't invite me to dinner, or didn't invite me to the Mad Hatter dinner. Or I wondered why nobody invited me to the Mad Hatter dinner. That would be a good way of altering it without giving any details that we don't know about. Number 2 says he should have been told that the contest started at 2 p.m. So should have been told. He is not doing the telling. Somebody should have told him. So that's really how we have to change it, is put that somebody first. So somebody should have told him that the contest started at 2 p.m. Okay, and these are probably good because they're kind of confusing as to who is actually doing the action, so they're a little harder to rewrite. But you'll notice that there are other ways to do it. I gave 2 examples that are different from what we have up here. Here it says, I wondered why they hadn't invited me. So it just said they, even though we don't know who they is. Here it says, you should have told him that the contest started at 2 p.m. So this tells somebody specifically that they should have told him. In this case, you should have told him. So there are different ways to alter them, especially if you don't know who is doing the action or who should have done the action. But that should give you some indication of what we would be looking for if we asked you to change sentences so they're in the active voice. Okay. There's a homework assignment for you to complete as well that should be handed out to you already. If the substitute did not hand that out yet, please ask them for it. And as you work through it, just kind of keep in mind if you have any questions that we can talk about right away tomorrow. But otherwise, best of luck, and hopefully this has been helpful, and hopefully these ideas make sense. They might just be some terms that you need to study, because really you have 4 words here that you have to understand the meaning of, and then you have 2 words here, active voice and passive voice, that you need to understand the meaning of to really get everything out of this lesson that you need to. Okay? Again, let me know if you have questions. Have a great day, everybody.